This is Waves, a podcast from PTA Michigan. I'm Andy Wicks. We introduced you to Doctors Nikki Pappas and Sara Wallace in our last episode. And while that episode may have given you a glimpse into what these two dynamos are all about, the second half of our conversation might be even more telling. We get vulnerable and we get curious. Soapboxes on soapboxes in this one. And if anyone has a talent out there for designing t-shirts or stickers or posters, let us know. We might have some ideas for you. Enjoy. I just saw a little meme that while it's looking at, I think it was actually looking at Amazon and capitalism, and that's not the point of it. But the message was a good one. It was, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20.
Ooh.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I know, kind of cool, huh?
Oh, my
heart.
I like that.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. But I think that's a great point of allowing the students, because man, oh man, if we can figure out a way to do this, that's what we need to put on a t-shirt. But how do you allow the students, how do you set them up for a mindset of having that grace for them to recognize, like, I am still very new at this and it's okay that I don't know it, and to ask for help, because they don't have that, and it's hard.
And I'm not sure that our academia is always doing that for our students. There's so much to do, not by any fault of their own, but it's not been the focus.
No. And so that's why when our students first show up, we talk to them about chunks.
First and foremost,
because we set that expectation that you will make mistakes and that we know you're going to make mistakes and we still support you. We know that you are going to be so distracted by us standing over your shoulder when somebody's typing and they're looking over your shoulder and you make more typos. That's what's happening with our students. And so the first day we're like, hey, buddy, you're not going to remember anything we said today. But if you remember anything, remember chunks. Because you are going to have flaws just like everybody else. And I know that PT students want to be more perfect than most students. But you don't have to be. You're safe here. But then we have to social perfectionism. But then we have to prove it. We have to back that up, and we have to when they do out loud. Yes, and when they do make mistakes, it has to be really low stakes. Like, okay,
help them fail up. You ever heard that?
Yes, I like that.
I'm gonna fail up.
Ooh. Well, and then even just sharing our own stories. Today, I was late getting back from lunch because I got held up by another provider, and I had this new student sitting there, and instead of just, I don't know, I just was like, hey, these things happen, and I was helping this provider with this, and thank you for waiting, and just being human about it instead of, and then even just having the talk today with this new student of like, things happen, you get sick or things happen, and we just expect for you to act professionally and let us know. And I think it just goes a long way of being a communicative, is that a word?
Sure. It is, and you nailed it.
Triple words, but just modeling that. I shared.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just
got really excited about something.
I love when you get excited.
Thank you.
It's so cute.
Carry on. Okay, well then I'll tell mine. So within the last 2 years, I had a student who has ADHD. And I am one of those adults who was recently diagnosed with ADHD. And so he's having these issues with safety in the clinic. Okay. And
kind of important.
I was like, oh, this is a big deal. And he was like, I know, but his brain isn't quite clicking in there. And rather than saying, well, you got to figure it out, I sat him down. I said, hey, when I was in your position and I was in my first acute care rotation, I forgot the Foley catheter every single session. Everyone. It was awful. And my CI was getting so mad at me. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And so although I don't have a solution for you, I understand you. And so again, vulnerability so that they have a sense of belonging and just normalizing what they're going through.
Yeah, I think sharing stories, right? Just showing up for your authentic self. You don't have to share all the details. No one needs to know that.
Gotta hold a few secrets.
Just a couple anyway.
I have two that I go to regularly. Both true stories.
Andy.
Both true. They're not secrets. They're true stories. They're what I use when my students are having really bad days. And the first one is, and I bet it'll hold true here, I bet I can beat any lowest test score you may have ever gotten. Ooh. What's the lowest test score you remember getting?
66%.
I got a 7.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Well, I almost failed that class, so...
Andy's told me this story before, so I feel like I'm.
Well, Catherine,
So this is this. I'll give you some context.
My lowest was 62%.
Look at you nerds. So for context, this was freshman chemistry.
Ooh,
Okay.
already sat on it.
First, I believe it was the first test of the fall semester of freshman year of college. What do you think I got out of 100 points? What do you think I got?
Well, I mean, you're asking. I'm
Also-
going to say 17 points.
Keep going.
Oh.
What? Did you write your name on the paper?
I got 11 out of
Really?
100.
How did you feel leaving that test? Did
So
you
it was, what I remember about the test, it was 5 pages. And I know that I left over 3 of the pages just completely blank because I'd had no idea what even to write. I walked out of there being certain that I was going to get kicked out of college. This is early October, freshman year kind of a situation. I did not get kicked out of college.
You still want to give freshman Andy a big hug.
Yeah, freshman Andy was not in a good spot, but that's okay. But the point is, so when my students get bad scores, I'm like, I got you beat. Don't worry about it. Secondly, how many patients' bones do you think I've broken? Do you know this, Catherine? Have I told you this?
You've told me this too.
All right.
Well, excuse me. What are you doing?
He's demonstrating vulnerability,
no,
Sarah.
okay, but I'm
Thank you,
right
Nikki.
now.
And Sarah's being very curious. What did you do?
What? I'm sounding judgy. I don't mean to. I'm being silly. Andy.
I am going to say 3 bones.
Exactly right. Second question. How many patients?
Oh, I was going to say 1.
2? What happened? Are you okay?
I'm fine. First one was a gentleman who we were working on his ability to run, TBI patient, who tripped and fell, landed on his forearm, ended up with a radial head fracture. So it was simply, that's just dumb luck, really unfortunate.
Oh.
Yeah, a whoopsie. Second 2, same patient, 2 different times. Was a broken thumb because we would spar and I would hold up like the pads and he would hit him. But the one time we didn't wrap his thumb down because he had kind of some dystonia in his upper extremity. Friday afternoon, of course. And he led with his thumb and it hit the pad and you could just hear it go.
Oh, you could hear it. Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Probably a year later, same patient. He was pulling a heavy load down the hallway. I loved loading my patients with a lot of weight.
I picture you, Andy, in some throne and having the patient drag you in this throne down the hall.
It wasn't that this time.
Okay.
And it usually wasn't a throne. I would sit on our high-low table and they would just push me around on that.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, but that wasn't this.
PT.
This sounds so fun.
But he was going around a corner and he had this big crate full of weight tied to him. And I was afraid he was going to clip the crate on the corner as he was going down the hallway. And so I stepped back and I gave the crate just a little nudge as it was going around the corner. But by doing so, I threw off his balance and he fell and he broke his wrist. So I drove him straight to the emergency room for that one, feeling so bad.
Oh.
We're still
And
friends.
this one is non-dominant hand or is dominant hand? PT questions.
I think it was his dominant.
Okay. I didn't even think that. I was just like, oh no.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
both of you. I can't imagine. Oh,
Yeah.
that's very stressful. So I hope none of your students in sharing those stories are like, okay, hold my beer. Like, you don't want that, right?
No, and I try not to phrase it as a contest, but the pressure that we put on them for examinations and things like that. We had the conversation not too long ago about just patient safety. And it's not like if you work in the neuro population or acute care long enough, it's not if you drop a patient, it's when you drop a patient. It's going to happen. She pointed right at Nikki's head.
Because she started phrasing it that way very thoughtfully with the students.
And also, she's dropped so many patients. No, I'm joking. No, you were saying that about me. Is
No,
what I was
that you
joking.
say-
Yes,
you-
I do say that.
You've had a couple falls, but she said that when and
And I tell them like a gate belt is not designed to stop a fall. It's designed to control a fall.
Right.
But I don't
Yeah.
think we know that when we're in school. That's
Well,
not being shared with us. We're like,
Yeah, well, my students get it now, but then
My
when they get all freaked out about like, oh my God, what's going to happen when I drop a patient? Am I going to get kicked out of my clinic or am I going to get fired? Listen,
it's a little more paperwork.
yeah, exactly. You're going to have more paperwork. which
Right.
sucks. But then let me tell you how many bones I've broken. That's where it comes up in context. So
And
it's
not
like,
only that, but even when we injure ourselves, like I
it's-
think that's another thing that PTs are really hard on ourselves for. And students are really nervous about those kinds of things. If you do tweak your back in a session, this happened to me a couple years ago where a patient, instead of pushing down against the bed, they pushed into my hands and I tweaked my back. And I was like, I teach patient safety and handling. I should be better than this. I was kicking the crap out of myself. And our friend Allie was like, we have a dangerous job. And I was like, oh, right. This is another thing that I can have control over a lot of things, but I cannot have control over everything.
Every variable.
Nikki, if it helps you feel better, I pulled a muscle in my back this morning doing a lecture.
Okay.
How did you? How did you do
Okay,
that?
what you said wasn't funny, but your delivery was. You have to forgive us.
No,
No,
it's,
What
it's funny.
happened?
What he said was funny.
I don't know, but my right QL is just locked up right now. So it's fine when I'm sitting. It's great. But when I try to stand up, it doesn't feel good.
Wait, Andy.
Yes.
We are super curious. I'm super curious.
I'm medium curious.
Okay, we've given this, we've presented, we call it the Nikki and Sara show. We very much are just kind of this way. We feed off each other. We're relatively intelligent people. We're passionate. We're good at what we do, and
Yeah.
we're really invested and can buckle down and be, I'm a mama bear when it comes to it. But I am very curious how you asked us to be here, but I'm very curious what your thoughts were in that presentation.
No, I was.
What the hell are they doing up there?
Well, I mean, there was full disclosure. There was a little bit of that, but it was said with a smile because there is let's be honest, if you've ever gone to a conference and gone to presentations, it's sometimes like watching paint dry.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not always, we're not there for the entertainment value.
We're pushing the envelope a little. We're
Yeah. So there was definitely in your presentation, I was like, oh, okay, there's some life in this room. Okay. And I appreciated it because it also didn't feel like it was completely off the rails. Like you guys, you had your presentation and it went very, very well. You just also presented it in a way that was more palatable, shall we say. Let's say I went to a lot of presentations that weekend and I didn't invite all of them to be on the podcast. So I'll just say that. Okay.
I was gonna say, I don't think he would have asked you if he didn't think you guys were interesting and engaging and want to talk to you more. So that's probably my impression.
Yeah, no, I'm just, as someone who, I really don't like the spotlight. I'm very uncomfortable up doing that, sweating in the hours.
Sitting pose.
I walk
Like the
around-
scarecrow.
I walk around like this,
Yeah.
just like
Okay.
so stressed out. Just, whoa.
Well, you did a good job. You did a good job.
I'm like, what the hell are we doing up here?
Well, thank you, Andy. I agree. I
Yeah.
think we did a great job.
It's fun, and I think it invites conversations that aren't being had. I think our learners are a little different, and our clinicians are needing more than we've given them through our academic process and through our...
I'm going to push back on that a little bit.
Please do.
Again, going back to maybe our earlier conversation of did these problems come up because of COVID or did you just talk about them more? I'm guessing that they've always needed this.
Yes.
We're just maybe more aware of it now as educators. Think
Right.
about back to when you were in PT school. I'm guessing that you probably didn't have an instructor or someone who was that person you could go confide in.
You're absolutely right, Andy. And I'm even reflecting, I mean, we both graduated from the same program, and I hold that program in high regard. We support it to this day. But I'm going to start teaching and learning
Mm-hmm.
in the spring, and I'm very excited to teach it. It's a lot of this content, social constructs and trauma-informed care and all of these things. And as I was preparing the lectures and reviewing the content, I was like, oh my gosh, I think we had a little bit of this in school. And when you're in school and just so worried about the hands-on and just being a PT and whatever you've created in your mind that looks like, I didn't give attention to that.
Sure.
content. And so I think programs have been trying.
Yep.
And it's not being picked up by the students.
Because it's not emphasized on the NPTE.
Yeah.
I do think the pandemic, or we're going to call it now.
No, we're not. No.
The panty.
Oh. Catherine.
I knew what you were thinking.
I was right.
Yeah, but I'm like,
but
you mean the panties?
the panties. That's so good.
Well, and
You know,
honestly,
the nice thing is I hold all the editing power, so that term may never make it onto the show.
You're gonna bleep it.
Oh, come
It's just gonna be, I'm going to bleep it out every single time, and no matter how many times you say it, I'm going to bleep it.
Yeah.
That year, and just the way, and I even talk to other parents or other people with young children, not even PT students, but teenagers or young kids, and kids are different.
yeah.
Yep.
Right?
They have different insights, they have different perspectives. And honestly, from my perspective in PT school, I'm kind of feeling the same thing as Sarah, where I think I got some of this information, but it wasn't emphasized. But I also feel like my social perfectionism wouldn't have even let me acknowledge that I had a problem in the first place, and my imposter syndrome just wouldn't have let me go.
So I will second that 1,000% because I do remember we had a psych class in PT school, and in part of it was like cognitive behavioral therapy and introducing you to what that is. And like I remember specifically, we had a worksheet that was like identify your like limiting beliefs or like your negative thoughts.
You're like,
and I'm
none.
going through and I'm like,
Yes.
I'm perfect. I don't ever think any of these negative thoughts.
No, right?
Fast forward to 2 years later after I have a concussion and post-concussive syndrome, and I actually go to therapy and I acknowledge all of the issues that I actually have.
Wow.
Yes.
I think chunks, perspective, experience, and a few of those aha moments. Yeah.
I'm realizing, so I'm in my second year now as a full-time academician, and I was telling someone else who's, looking into this kind of career transition, like what was something that you didn't expect? And I didn't expect the amount and depth and breadth of mental health issues is not there. I don't like using that word, but mental health situations that my students are dealing with and the experiences that they bring. Now, has this changed? I'm like, I don't know, but certainly my awareness of it has changed. I mean, if stuff like this was going on when I was in PT school, and I'm sure it was, I was oblivious,
Sure.
absolutely oblivious. I was also a second career student, so I was a lot older than my classmates. So there was that kind of social difference in terms of we just didn't hang out all that much. But realizing what these students are bringing with them into school and things like that has been very eye-opening for me, and certainly makes me realize if we're not curious and if we're not vulnerable and we're not making these connections with our students, we are missing a huge opportunity to get them to engage.
Well, we invite them, and in school we really try and treat the whole patient, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But we're not necessarily focusing on allowing the full student to be present.
Yeah. And one thing that I've been saying since we started Healing Out Loud is I've been teaching for 10 years, but my class, my patient safety and handling class that I built from scratch, once I started teaching that and then 2020 happened, I ended up getting 10 times the stressed out student emails than I ever got before the pandemic. And can we meet because I need to just talk about my personal life, and I would schedule times to sit with these students so that they could just sob to me about inter-student relationships and stressing out about other classes, stressing out about their family situations. And I'm scheduling time outside of my full-time job where I am dealing with COVID patients and my school job that I'm doing on evenings and weekends. And it's been wonderful, but it's also a lot of emotional labor that also is a big part of why we're all stressed out as well.
I mean, just by you sharing and being the person you are, it invites more of that, right?
Yeah. I can see students gravitating towards you, Nikki.
Yeah, and I think that they do. And of course, I love that. And I'm happy to do the emotional labor, but it doesn't really change how that also means that I have a different emotional load, and I have to use
absolutely
that my other staff members at the VA and my staff members at the University of Utah don't necessarily have to deal with. And Andy and I heard this a lot. I forget what the term is, but we were hearing about Black women in physical therapy academics where they're
no. Such a great presentation Tiffany Adams did.
Cultural token,
cultural taxation.
Okay, that's not what I was thinking of, but that's still a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, and so basically, like these professors of color, these Black women, they're not only going to be getting their own students that they're mentoring, but also all of the students of color are going to gravitate to them, and it just ends up being cultural taxation, where they have to end up doing so much more labor.
They're doing more work that is put upon them by basis of their identity.
Indeed, yes.
Yep. Yeah, that was a fantastic presentation.
So good.
Given by the best dressed physical therapist in the country, Tiffany Adams.
Oh, I missed it. Is she from Duke?
She is.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do know.
She makes the rest of us in our scrubs look like people in scrubs.
She's very poised, very bright. I could listen to her speak.
Yeah.
I didn't go to that discussion you guys went to, but I've attended some webinars, and I'm always really engaged with her. What was your first career, Andy?
Curiosity.
Nothing interesting. I was one of those guys that when I graduated from college didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I got a job in corporate America at a big employer in the Twin Cities. I mean, at the time, it was a good company to work for. Got some good experiences. I got to travel quite a bit because of it. But I also had a very traumatic knee injury in college that led to me having a total knee replacement when I was 28. After every one of those surgeries, the knee replacement was my 8th surgery. And after every one of my surgeries, I would always complain. So I did a lot of athletic training in college. I always complained to my wife, oh, I wish I would have gone into the physical therapy route. I always thought that was really cool. I just didn't have the prereqs. Either I didn't do a good job with them or I just didn't have them. And then my wife got sick of hearing me complain about it, just so we'll figure it out and do it. So I did.
I love that.
I also will tell one more vulnerability story. This one is also a really funny one, I think.
Woo.
So when I was a student, I went to the University of Minnesota, go Gophers, and they do all of their rotations the entire 3rd year. So our entire 3rd year of BT school is just 4 back-to-back rotations. And the first one then, I'm at a hospital, relatively small hospital with a built-in inpatient rehab unit. And I'm working with a woman who I believe she was like a recently retired teacher who had both of her knees replaced at the same time. Don't recommend that. And so she was just in the inpatient rehab wing for a few days until she kind of gets strong enough to go home. Okay. So my CI has me going to do interview and whatever with her. And this poor woman, I can tell, is just in just tons of pain. She's just sitting on the edge of bed and just like clenched and just, and her daughter was there, and her daughter was about my age. So I'm just kind of making small talk. I told the woman, the patient, well, I had my own knee replaced, to kind of just breaking the ice and talking like my pain after my knee replacement was much, much better. And I can do most things. There's just some things I can't really do. And she was like, well, what can't you really do? And I said, well, it's not very comfortable to kneel on my replaced knee. It just doesn't feel, especially on like a hard floor, it just doesn't feel very good. And she leans in close and says, does this mean I can't be on top for sex anymore? And her daughter is sitting right next to her. And her daughter goes, mother!
That's a good question.
And I said, well, I mean, if you have sex on concrete floors a lot, it's probably not going to feel very good. But yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I'm laughing.
The patient and I got along great after that one.
When I first started working as a pelvic floor therapist, I worked in a clinic that saw a lot of just regular orthopedic cases too. There was a clinician that was not comfortable talking about that stuff at all. And he's like, I have this person who just keeps asking me about like sex positions. Will you just see her so you can talk about it with her? Even though it was the same thing. Like she had her knee replaced or something. And I was
yeah. I mean,
sure.
Yeah.
We talked about sex positions all the time. And I just never had anybody like so distraught, like, oh, but this is my position. And with her daughter right there, I just love
I'm like,
that story.
Ladies get a little freak on. I like it.
We had a patient just a month or two ago in his 20s
Mm-hmm.
who needed a hip replacement, and he's not married, but has a girlfriend, and his mother was there like nonstop. And he had asked questions of like providers outside of his room about positions and, because with hip precautions, and all the things. And then I was like, well, do you want your mom to hear? He's like, oh my gosh, my mom's heard it all. We can talk about it in front of her. And I was like, okay. I mean,
cool.
Okay.
I mean, hey, but that is a question you might need to ask of like, do you want your mom hearing this conversation?
He's like, oh no. But,
I love that. I love that. That's a really beautiful story about vulnerability, and
yeah.
I just
And we got along great after that. We had a bond.
I love that.
Okay, so we have been talking for over an hour now. Time has flown while we've been having fun. Sarah, you mentioned this, that you didn't want to get on your soapbox about something. We actually encourage soapboxes here on the podcast. Mm-hmm. So if either of you have soapbox or soapboxes, that is not a requirement. It is simply an invitation.
First of all,
but do I need to get like another drink or anything? Like, how long are we going to be here?
No. I don't remember what I have a lot of things here rattling around. I'm finding myself wondering, where does this term come from? Or is it like
soapbox to get on the soapbox?
Yeah, it's town square.
Yeah, it's when they used to put out a soapbox so they could step up and usually preaching religious things.
It was like a crate. Yeah. You got to stand on a crate.
Yeah.
Soap apparently came in crates, I guess, back in ye olden times.
A soap crate.
I do have a soapbox I would like to.
I thought you might.
What is it?
It's about perfectionism and flaw.
Let's hear it.
I'm going to bring it back to Ben. Andy's son, Ben. And his expression...
We've never met him.
We've never met him. He just told us about him.
We're his biggest fan.
Indeed. When we had a PT who was saying, I have this student, or when I do this thing, I'm really worried about what this person thinks, and are they going to think this? And I said, I live by the policy that what other people think about me is none of my business. I think that I learned that from Sarah. And I really try not to let other people's opinions of me impact my behavior. And that is when Andy said, well, that sounds like an issue rather than an ish me. And it was beautiful, and apparently got it from his son Ben, and it is glorious. If we continue to believe that perfectionism is possible, we're going to continue to want everybody else to think that we have reached that goal. We've reached that perfection. And that is nonsense. I tell my students every day, please stop expecting perfection of yourself, because that is nonsense. It is not a thing that is possible. And would you expect your best friend to be perfect in order to be valid? No. Talk to yourself like you are your own best friend. Soapbox, stepping down. Thank you for allowing that time.
That is exactly how she talks to students. She gets very passionate about the issue, and the word nonsense is very deliberate, and I love it.
Thank you.
I just recently heard the expression, Nikki, I think you'll appreciate this, and you may have heard it already, that I shouldn't have to light myself on fire to keep you warm. That's a good one.
That literally knocked me back. It knocked the air out of me. I don't need
that. I felt that one here.
Yeah,
a little fluttery.
I can't take credit for it. I just heard it.
Well, and this is exactly why, like, the second that you and I talked, I was like, yeah, Andy, you and I are going to be besties. It's just, I'm not going to try and force it. Like, I'm not going to be creepy about it, but it's going to happen. You're going to be my best friend, and it's going to be fine.
Cool. Well, I mean, I don't think I can replace Sarah, but, I appreciate the sentiment.
I'm allowed to have many best friends.
Oh, okay, cool.
But I don't want to, again.
It's like a plateau of friends here.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Hey, well, thanks.
You're welcome.
I also thought of another one. I know we're just like tossing out maxims and idioms here.
These are my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen, it's a t-shirt, well, it's many things, but that just says Maslow's before Bloom's? Have you seen that?
No.
No, please explain that to me.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs before Bloom's taxonomy. I know, right?
I'm going to fall out of my chair.
You're the biggest nerd. You would love that shirt.
I would love that shirt.
It exists. You can buy that. That's a shirt that you can buy.
Oh.
I know, right?
I want that.
I want to get a giant poster.
Do you have
up
that
in my
shirt,
office.
Andy?
I don't. I will admit I was looking at designs and I just didn't see one that spoke to me. I'm wearing this one.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
I like it.
We should probably read it for the podcasters.
Oh yeah, it says weird teachers build character.
Yes.
I just didn't see a design that really spoke to me, so I didn't get one. But I'd want a poster or something to put in my office.
Yeah.
Well, when
it's
time for us to make our T-shirts about that sounds like an issue rather than an ish me, I'll let you know, and I will get Ben's T-shirt size so I can send him send him a T-shirt in his size.
Nice. Sarah, do you have any soapboxes?
I am still just like
okay.
Maslow's before Bloom's. I'm just sitting with that for a minute.
Yeah. It's just stew in it. It's good.
Oh my.
Yeah.
A little stewy over here. I like that.
I mean, and it's like when you think about it, you're like, well, duh, of course.
But that's everything that we've said today is,
I know.
Well, yeah.
But it just feels a little different. I just really like that for some reason.
Because when I ask my students to learn and they are simply trying to meet their basic physiologic needs, No.
Your
They don't-
patients.
They don't give two shits about a
Yeah.
VOR cancellation test.
No,
Thank you
they
very
can't.
much.
What are my soapboxes, Nikki? Mine get a little political. Not always political, but just I have a really hard time working in the VA system and trying to teach our students to be autonomous providers and provide the care that our patients need. And we have that time and that privilege in the VA, and then hearing from them when they go to third-party payers and not being able. And I think we see that a little bit where that can be demoralizing for them, where I think as learners or new practitioners, we have all these grandiose ideas, but your hands are tied at times.
Well,
That's
and,
a soapbox.
And one
of
thing
mine.
that you are soapboxing also is just like making one's worth based on their productivity.
Oh,
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
All the value that I bring or that a provider brings to a situation or to an environment is not always tangible or measurable. And I think we get too far away from that and try and measure things in a way. And I'm not good with the words sometimes.
She's excellent with the words.
I think you're very good with the words, Sarah.
I have a number of things I get really passionate about and excited about, but I'm really, really trying to just listen to others and understand, hey, I can be passionate about this thing, but also trying to wait and hear other people's perspectives. What are my soapboxes?
That you're team curiosity, dude. Ask more questions.
Oh, I do really I try and invite perspective when I hear other people in the office or students being like, oh, that guy's so mean and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, but have we thought about, did he get breakfast this morning? You know, and just inviting that perspective. So I'm trying to be that voice of perspective and curiosity.
Even if nothing else, to remind or to teach students or our colleagues, we never know all the answers. We never know all the details. Okay? We never do. Even if we think we do, we don't.
And we can't.
And we can't.
There's no way. And that's, you spoke about trauma-informed care, and it really kind of stems from that. Just like, we can't know what's going on. We're not owed all of the details. But
That sounds like
They don't need to set themselves on fire to keep me warm.
Yes.
I'm just like,
That is visceral. I can feel that expression. I love it.
is there a machine that you can just like type in the sticker you want and it'll just like make it for you?
Probably. But you know what? They have these things on
I
phones
think
now, on the
Canva will
internet.
do that.
And I think you can just, you could probably search for these and you can probably make it, and it'll probably be at your house in like 2 days.
I just like, there were a bunch of stickers.
I made a bunch of stuff on Shutterfly yesterday. So.
I have
There you
my
go.
planner next to me, and this is where I keep all of my stickers. And now I have more stickers that I want to make or get.
All right.
Soapboxes. What are you? I want to hear. I'm curious about your soapboxes, and then we can wrap it up, or we can just talk all night. I mean, it's fine. You guys are in a different time zone.
Yeah, we are in the future. So
How's it looking over?
It looks dark.
it's dark.
What are your soapboxes?
Catherine,
I have to go first.
Yeah, you do.
you don't have to, but I just said your name first. So
I think that you should demonstrate some vulnerability and rock that.
Rock the soapbox. I could probably have a lot of them too, but because we talked about it a little bit, I do have a little bit of a thing of like, I think a lot of people say they provide trauma-informed care and they went to a 2-hour webinar and they didn't really like change or implement any, like a lot of it. Like we're not really living it. So I guess that's my soapbox is trauma-informed care is more than like a sticker that you can put on your resume. Like you have to actually
It's bigger than a buzzword.
live it and work through it and practice it, because no one is perfect at it, but you gotta keep trying to get better.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
I've said this before. I think pelvic floor therapists were on the trauma-informed care train long before any of the rest of us were.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
That intuition, it's amazing what you guys do.
All right, Mandy.
I don't know. Having a podcast allows me to have just soapboxes all the time. I feel like I talk about my soapboxes almost every episode.
That doesn't mean that you can't have more soapboxes.
We can help you find more.
All right. Let me think about this for a minute. And I don't want to just simply repeat things that you guys have already said, because I agree with many of those things about just the value that, how do we measure our value? How does the PT education machine adapt to meet the needs? Because that was a big thing that I took away from ELC. This is my first ELC that I went to.
Same.
And
Yeah.
I liked it in a lot of ways. I like CSM, don't get me wrong, CSM is like a giant party, but CSM is also a giant party. And ELC is a little more manageable. And when you're like me and you only have so many chunks to spend on social energy, and you're like,
Yes.
this is more manageable. Like, I was the guy after every day, I just wanted to go back to my hotel room, get some room service, take a hot shower, and go to bed. That was me.
Andy, we're best friends.
Okay. So, but anyway, but that's not my soapbox. But recognize that there was, the keynote speaker at ELC was talking about this push for like competency-based assessment. Essentially, I loved the phrase that he used. I don't know. Did you guys go to the keynote?
Yes.
So like the either you passed or not yet. I love that.
Yes.
But you either did it or you're not quite there yet, and we'll get you there, but you're not there yet. All the ways that it really made sense to address things like curricular creep, where things keep getting added in, but we don't take things out. And so we're cramming so much information down the throats of our students and wondering why they're getting stressed and wondering why they're not doing well, when we as educators are also we're under the pressures of more. So I'll actually come down to a point here. Then, and one of you mentioned this, and I'm only going to say a little bit because it speaks to what I want to talk to you guys after we're done. We work in healthcare. We work in an industry that tries to provide health to other people in a system that doesn't foster health and wellness in ourselves.
Yes.
Ooh.
And that to me is problematic.
Yes.
There you go.
Oh, I don't know what soapbox I'm going to pick. I always am. I don't even know what to do. Bomb dropped, greatest thing ever said. It's fine.
That gives you pause, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think Nikki's my hype man.
The whole thing about being...
She's just trying to be your best friend.
Well, the thing is that I'm not being nice. I'm not like going out of my way. I'm just being honest.
Oh,
and I just happen to be a really enthusiastic person, and it hurts me to hold nice things that I think inside.
Causes physical pain. I have to get it out. All right. Well, let's wrap things up here a little bit. This may be just the first of many episodes that we have the Nikki and Sara show on. I think the Nikki and Sara show might need its own show. Just saying. There's a lot of PT podcasts out there. There aren't very many good PT podcasts out there. I'm just saying.
Well, we say.
Can people find you? Do you want to be found on the internets? You don't have to be.
Yeah.
Sure.
Find me on Instagram. That's all I got. Anything else? Oh,
what's your handle?
Just like
Nikki Dypap, DYPAP, NIKKI.
Like, open Instagram and just yell, Nikki.
Hey, Nikki! Team vulnerability.
Oh my God. Maybe that's what your handle should be.
Oh, that would be great. Oh,
Okay.
Maybe when we make a podcast, we'll each have team curiosity and team vulnerability and see who gets more likes.
Oh, that would be good.
I'm going to abstain from that one. Sara, you want to be found, or are you happy to be?
Sure. I don't do a whole
have to be.
lot online. I do have Instagram. I don't even know my name.
So,
I don't go on it very much.
So let's find Nikki and then probably look through Nikki's friends to find Sara.
Yeah, am I Sara Wallace?
I think
12?
so.
And then I have LinkedIn that I'm working on getting it to be cooler.
Okay.
Oh, same.
Sara Wallace, PT DPT with the Veterans Health Administration. So
Cool. We'll link to all that stuff.
okay, kind of.
Hey, and Catherine, guess what?
What?
This is new. All of you, guess this is new in Michigan. Now, it's only for Michigan, but this is so cool. You can get PDR.
Yes.
You can get PDR credit for listening to one of our episodes and filling out the little form.
Way to go!
I know.
Yeah, Michigan.
So educational.
I know. We've been putting out PDR content for years now.
I love that.
So I just found that out today.
Congratulations, and
Thank you.
also congratulations all the Michiganders who get so much credit for listening to us be brilliant.
Good for you for knowing the term Michigander.
Oh,
Is that
it is, yeah.
It is?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. Do you also know the thing about how you put up your hand and then point to where you are?
Other hand, Sara. Both were like,
I grew up in Ohio
oh, okay. Well, yeah.
and moved out here, but I didn't learn the hand thing.
And you
Yeah,
clearly
so
they're
This
Michigan.
is the lower peninsula. Okay. Lake Michigan's over here. Okay. Detroit's over here. Grand Rapids is about right there.
Okay.
Okay.
Is
So
that where
this
you are?
This is where Catherine and I are, right there.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're over here.
Yeah.
I love this. There's no
And
Utah.
Lake Michigan, if you ever get a chance, we have some of the best beaches in America, about 30 minutes from where we live. So
Fun.
It is.
Just
Utah
saying.
looks like this.
Yep, that's pretty good.
Great there.
Right in the knuckle.
Doesn't have quite the same flair, but
It really doesn't, because it just looks terrible. We'll figure it out. Oh yeah, she is Sara _Wallace 12.
Sara _Wallace. Perfect. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, you two.
Thank you for having us.
It was really fun for
It
us.
was so fun.
I hope other people liked it too.
Same.
Doctors Nikki Pappas and Sara Wallace are physical therapists and educators in Salt Lake City, Utah. They are wonderful people, and I really hope you get the chance to cross paths with them because it will be worth it. Waves is a production of APTA Michigan. It is co-hosted by Dr. Catherine Klein and me, Andy Wicks. Editing and production help from Chris Shoemate. You can find and subscribe to our podcast anywhere you get podcasts. I mean, you're listening to this one, so you found us somehow. If you're so inclined, we wouldn't say no to a rate and a review on your app of choice. I know they say it really does help, but it actually does help. It helps more people find the show. You can find us online at www.aptami.org/podcasts or on social media at APTAMI Waves. If you are a PT or a PTA in Michigan, see the show notes to learn how you can get PDR credit just for listening to Waves. It's super easy. As always, thank you for listening, and may your documentation always be done on time.